Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. We are so honored and excited to be here with you today. This is our favorite time of the week, our favorite Zoom, where we get to talk everything biblical wisdom and wealth and the blessing that that brings to you, your family, and those that your family touches, right? Our network and our expansion and people that get to see our testimony in all these different ways. So we love this space. Today, we're going to have a special guest speaker who's going to share her story with us because if you've been on before, you've heard our story, but we're going to share a little bit of that. And then we're going to roundtable discussion some key points about building a home business as a Christian woman with some very successful but home-hearted ladies on here today as well. So if you're new with us, we are all with Plexus, that beautiful company that we found for our own health reasons and now blesses our family financially and the homes of others. And this is the time where we get to talk about that, where we get to talk about that business blessing using the tool of Plexus. So I'm going to start it off with asking our special guest speaker, Alyssa. She was a guest on with us last week listening, and she said, I would love to share my heart and what this business has built for our home. And so we get to hear her. And I'm so excited because we kind of connected over Messenger a little bit. I was up in Canada visiting with some of her team members, and they were just raving about you, Alyssa. So you obviously have such a impact on people. And I'm just excited to hear what this business has been to your family, how you found it, and what you love about it. So, floor is yours, friend.
Oh, thank you. I get so excited doing this because for me, it's all about hope, right? Um, to just start off with a bang, 7 years ago, I felt like I didn't have very much hope. Like, I know some of you listening and watching, you're probably in the same space, right? Where you just feel so depleted, where you're lying in bed and you're like, oh my goodness, how do I get up tomorrow? I don't have energy to get up tomorrow. I have young kids that are driving me crazy and I can't hide from them. But overall, that for us anyway, there was just this sense of depletion when it came to our vision, our dreams, and our finances. Because so many of those things are tied together, right? If you don't have the health, it's really hard to think about that vacation you want to do. If you don't have the finances and you're living like, oh, what's the next bill going to be? Are we going to need a new truck? You know, your hubby comes to you and is like, so I got this big expense I think we're going to have to do. And your heart instantly goes like, there's that fear. Like I see the nodding heads. Like we can all relate to that, right? And so 7 years ago, I was just depleted, worn out. And that really, like, never take for granted when we're going through hard spaces the things that God is doing in you, right? Because I look at that now, and though I would never want to live through it again, I know that every breath of my heart, every beat of my heart turned into this cry for help. Like, Lord, this is not the life I want. This is not the life that I think that I know that you have in store for me. Like there's so much more. I knew that God had an impact, a purpose. And it's not that I was wasn't living it out, but there was molding and shaping and change that needed to happen. And so for me, it was the miracle of a Plexus post that came through my Facebook feed. It was a girl I had met 10 years before at college. I think we hung out at once. Like, hadn't even seen her pop up on my Facebook in 10 years. And all of a sudden, there's this like, bing, hey, I'm working on my gut and I have energy now. And I was like, oh, what is this? But I was not quick to the draw because you guys, things were tight, tight. Like the kind of tight where you're crying in the shower, thinking about having to ask your husband to spend money on yourself. Like that kind of tight. But God, but God, He works in such mysterious ways, doesn't He? So I remember talking to my husband, and then I told my friend, nope, can't do it. And then she would just send me another story. I was pregnant at the time. She's like, oh, check out what Plexus did for another person who's pregnant. And that door of hope would creep open again. And then I'd slam it shut. And then there'd be another story and it would creep open again. And so finally I told my husband, I'm like, you know what? Last 3 months of pregnancy, give me 3 months. I don't know how we're going to make this work, but we are going to make it work. And I learned a lesson there, you guys. And it's that when God sets a seed in your heart of something that He has for you, something bigger, you're not going to be able to bury it. You'll bury it and it will torment you and it will drive you crazy to the point of, I need to make sacrifices in other areas, becomes way easier than living with the torment of knowing that there's a hope and there is an idea or something that could change your life. So I jumped on. And now for me, because I was pregnant, it wasn't like I grew wings and started flying, right? Like I was still tired, but I found my mental capacity, my frustration started to tone down. I could handle my young kids better. And it's actually a really cool story because I was asking God for aha moments. And like, Lord, I need to, like, I don't want to stop this, but I can't. Like, I don't see how we're going to be able to continue. I need to have some sort of concrete reason to continue on these products, though I know you've brought into my life for a reason. So the craziest thing happened when my daughter was born. Um, there's all these doctors, they're huddled at the foot of the bed and they were whispering. And now, flashback, our first daughter we lost at 23 and a half weeks. So we held her and rejoiced over her, but it was a really hard season. And so then with our last child, my husband saw them whispering and he had this instant flashback. Like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And the doctor looked at me with these huge eyes and she's like, nothing is wrong. This umbilical cord is perfect. The tone, the texture. And she was just like in awe. And the first thought that went through my brain is like, superior nutrition absorption. I read about this in all the stories. This is why I wanted to start Plexus. And it was one of those beautiful gifts of God to say, nah, I'm doing things here. I'm doing things here. You are not done with this. Because then, well, how do you stop, right? I'm nursing my baby. She needs the nutrients. I need the nutrients. Fast forward 6 months later, I was in a friend's house nursing, and a long haired cat ran by, which would not seem to be an abnormal thing usually or amazing. But I've been allergic to cats since I was 12 years old. And I had been in this house for 20 minutes and I had no idea. And so that was the second, like, what in the world is going on? Like, my health is shifting in ways that I didn't even understand, couldn't even, didn't see happening. And then to top that all off, like some healing is fast and some takes time. And just over the space of the next years, I've seen my hormones slowly begin to like regulate and smooth out where, I went from not regular point of being annoying regular now, right? But it's just such a relief. But going back to that first season where I knew I wanted these products, but I knew that we could not afford them. Like there was just no way. Um, but I knew enough about Plexus to be like, okay, well, if I need these products, somebody else needs those products. If I was hungry and desperate to start something, somebody else is going to be hungry and desperate to start. And so I look back and I laugh now. It was just this like nursing my baby and reading stories and like, oh, there's a story about this issue. My aunt has that issue. Hey, aunt, maybe you should check this out. And it was very much like, I don't know if it's going to help you, but you might as well take a look. And so my business journey did not start like a rocket launch. It was not like this fast rocket star growing. It was just slow. Hey, all of a sudden my cost per month is $20 less. All of a sudden my cost for the month is $100 less. All of a sudden I can get my husband on the product. And that's when I think God used the business in the most powerful way, not to negate the beauty of what healing your gut is all about. But something happened in that space and we began to dream. And it still tears me up because we were in a space, we were dreamers. We had a hunger and we wanted to dream, but we had stopped because it was too painful to not know how those dreams could happen. And like the Bible says, without vision, the people perish. And I felt that. Like we had this death going on inside. And so if you guys take away anything from today, I just want you to know there is hope. There is hope. No matter how stuck you are, we have been created to be creative. We have been created to grow. And so the instant I realized, I'm like, wait, this is a vehicle for our dreams. This is something that I can step into and God could use. I had never had that before. And so we began to dream again. We began to work, and slowly God began to provide. And I think it's still one of my favorite things is that we put the actions in. Like I can reach out and ask somebody, hey, I know you're struggling with this. Would you be open to looking at what I'm offering about the plexus and what it's helped for me? This is what it's done for me and my friends. And they can say no. And I can be like, oh, right. It's your product. You don't even know what it does. And if you need to say no right now, so be it. But time and time again, people come to me or they say, oh, you know what? I was actually praying this morning. Like we needed something for my son, or I need something for me or my husband. Can we talk some more? And all of a sudden these people started coming into my life. And so looking back now, I think three of the biggest, most beautiful things that God has done for our family in the business is one, helping us dream again, and then giving us the vehicle to walk towards those dreams. Because as you're moving towards a goal, man, that just fills you with life. If you've ever seen yourself getting closer to a goal, it fills you with life. We're created for that. And then the other thing it started bringing was community. I don't know about you, but I need people around me that push me, that challenge me, that I can look at and say, you know what, that's where I'm going. And if you did it, I can do it too. People that speak life into us. And so in and through the business side, I did not expect to be surrounded by beautiful, incredible, like, I mean, look who's on here. And I see a ton of my team on here that I love. And so I see leaders I look up to. And then I see my team who I get to work with, Vanessa and Ashley and Valerie and Justina. And they are people that I see growing and linking arms. And that has just become like the most beautiful, life giving thing. And then I think thirdly is just a place to grow. Like there were so many times when I would do my Bible reading and I'd be hungry for growth, but I wouldn't have an outlet. I wouldn't know how to necessarily walk into the spaces God was calling me to. And I know anyone on here who loves Jesus and does plexus, you will have seen moments in your life where God's been like, hey, you know that fear you're holding on to? I'm going to help you let go of it right now. Because if this is where you want to go, you're going to need to break three of those fears. And so to have a place where I'm constantly pushed out of my comfort zone has been the biggest blessing because God is always hovering on the outside of the comfort zone. Where we see God at work is outside the comfort zone. And if you don't step out, you forget that He's in the business of doing things. And so for me, that's been truly incredible, right? Like almost addictive because now it's like, oh man, there's something I really don't want to do, but I know that if I step out of my comfort zone, if I do that, God's going to be glorified and I'm going to have joy. And so the growth has done that. And so I guess that's a lot, but it's just been beautiful to watch
I love
where
that.
He's taken us from where we were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and one more thing. Add one more thing to that.
Yes.
Okay. I had no idea where we would be 7 years ago. You have no idea where you're going to be 7 years from now. You don't know the heartache. You don't know the joy. You don't know the situation. So for us, 5 years into our plexus business, God called us to leave everything we knew in the city that we knew, move into an RV, and start heading across the country. And it was crazy. But I look at it now like for 5 years, God had been preparing us to walk in faith, to do hard things without knowing the outcome on the end. And then thanks to Plexus, we were able to like not worry about the income to do that. Long story short, all the dreams that we'd had 7 years ago that just felt like there was no way they would ever come true, God used that walk of faith, equipped through Plexus and the income that I was making and the growth that I'd had to quite literally land us in the middle of our biggest dream. We had talked about having land on water close to a little town. And all of a sudden, I now live in a 4,000 square foot, 102-year-old house on 11 acres with pigs and chickens and all the things that we'd ever dreamed of. But I didn't see that coming when we first took the step. I didn't see that coming when God just said, hey, move into an RV and just like Abraham, I'll tell you where you're going, right? And so often that's our businesses too. We want to see the end. We want to be like, I can sell you 100% sure where we're going, but we don't get that. We just need to take the step, walk baby steps, and then you do the toddler crawl, and then you do the preschooler scurry, and you have to take it step at a time because you don't know where God's leading you. But I can tell you he's leading you somewhere good, and that those dreams and that fire that he's got in you is for a reason. So there you go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you for giving us just the full picture from the mindset that you were in, the hopes and the dreams that you had happen. And then I know that so many people can probably relate to the frustration
Mhm.
of having something that you want to see happen that is a good thing, but not having a avenue to make that happen,
Yeah.
right? That thing. And hearing that your family now is financially funded in all of those dreams through Plexus,
Mhm.
and it started so small and grew out, and you had that patience, and that is what we want to call all the women here on this Zoom. And if you are on this Zoom, it means that in some capacity you feel that same way, knowing that there is something big and good and grand. Even, I mean, big and good and grand can be being at home with your children without the financial stress and pressure and debt looming over you, so that you can live more free of that and be able to give more, right? Like that is big and grand in today's society, right? And knowing that there's just not an avenue for that. So we talk about being shackled a lot by our modern day income stream options of being an employer, being under someone else that has to decide whether you make more or do more or where you live or what you can come and go. And this being that free option of something that you can build out. So thank you for just painting that picture and giving people that hope and dream and vision if that resonated with you. And now I want to like roundtable that a little bit, that discussion. We have Brenda and Sherry on, who have also reached the very top of the company with Plexus and incredible financial goals for their family. And we really wanted to talk about what you brought up, that question of, do you have to choose between success, right? Financial freedom, whatever, maybe that land or that big dream or the travel with your kids, or that success, or family. Because a lot of times out there's this message that you can't have both. You have to choose, right? Especially as stay-at-home, most of us here are most likely, stay-at-home moms, or we want to be, and we want to pour into our home and our kids. But do we have to choose between those two? So we're going to talk about that first. I'm going to pass it over to Brenda. And Brenda, can you just give us a little brief cap of why you are at this round table, like the incredible things that's happened, and how you played out this question in your family?
Absolutely. Y'all, I am here because I am like nothing more do I want right now in my part in this business after 11 years than to see other moms able to achieve this too, because it has meant so much for us. So I have 11 children. I had no dream growing up except to be a mom, and I wanted to have 12 kids. 11 was perfect for us. It is perfect. Um, and homeschooling, raising our kids at home. My husband had a home business. Like we were living the dream. But here's the thing, we were living this dream, but we were surviving. We were not thriving. And that's what we really wanted. That's what we prayed for, was to be able to thrive, be able to not have the stress of finances so that we wouldn't have that hanging over us, because we want our children to think big and do big and impact big. And we know that money is often a part of that. Not always, but often, pretty much usually. And we also wanted to be able to bless others when we saw needs around us. We'd had people that helped us out when things were tough. And I just looked at it going, wow, would that be amazing to have extra to give? And to be on that end now it's just like, I never want to go back. It's just the best to be able to help out when someone needs help. Okay, couple things I want to touch on as far as that Alyssa said that resonated with exactly what I was thinking of sharing with you today. As stay-at-home moms whose heart, like I said, was nothing more than to be with my kids, raise my kids, be a homemaker. I didn't have a career vision for myself. When This came along. In fact, okay, let me back up just a second. Before Plexus came into my life, I had some friends who were doing network marketing, and they asked me to join them to do what they were doing and earn a couple hundred, a couple thousand. And it looked fun because I was ordering products from them and I love the products. I don't have a problem sharing them, but it required parties, going out, finding hosts and having parties in homes, or something that just took a lot of my time that didn't seem to be much in return. And here's the thing, I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to work hard. I have a good work ethic. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Your kids should see you working hard. But my husband and I decided that if I already homeschooling, having babies, raising the kids, cooking from scratch, you guys know the drill. If I'm doing that and I'm going to spend time on something else, it has to be worth my time. And so when he took a look at the Plexus compensation plan, he said, whoa, this is what they're doing this right. He had said no to me, by the way, for those others who had invited me. But this one he said is different. And he was right. He said, as long as I have clean underwear in my drawer, go for it. Do what it takes to build this business. Because first of all, everyone needs what we have. I'm not talking someone into some kitchen tools or extra handbags or makeup or creams. I am talking to them about health that everyone needs. So that part made it easy. But here's the thing, in something like this, there are sacrifices. And I love Alyssa's quote, something like making sacrifices for something better. I sacrificed not raising a huge garden and putting up food like I used to. I sacrificed organization in my closets and my corners, which I used to take pride in. Those things just set aside for a while. I sacrificed my leisure reading, Netflix, all those things. Didn't happen for me for probably 2, 3, 4 years building this business because it was for something better. All of us moms have 24 hours and we can all find time for something like this if it means that much to your family to thrive rather than survive.
I love it. Wow, nailed it. So, so good to thrive rather than, okay, so I want to add on to this, like what you just said. If you're on this Zoom and you're wrestling with a question similar to that, list out what would be the benefit for my family and home with success with Plexus. Like if I was able and if I do, because you are able, this is not the question. The question isn't I can't or can I. It is if I do, what is the blessing for my home with Plexus? List out each kid. This is, so I did this, it's going to be a little, let's do a little marriage counseling here. I did this with hunting, okay? My husband is an avid hunter. He is like, that is lifeblood in our home. And I was talking to someone and she said, you know what? I want you to list out all the ways that it is a blessing to Colt, my 12-year-old, a blessing to your daughter, a blessing to you, a blessing to your husband, a blessing to others that he hunts. And it was just this shift of perspective. And I took every single child and I wrote down like the character development, the consistency that they see, you know, the time alone with dad. And so now I only see those positives, or I work to only see, and I have a list that I can go back to and I see it playing out versus focusing on all of the, well, he's gone out in the woods, he's out in the tree stand, he's not at dinner time, you know, that kind of thing. And so I would encourage you, think of each child in your home. I was listening to a podcast the other day and he said, the thing that stops a lot of people from succeeding is they think they have time. Like, oh, I'll do it later, right? Or I'll do it next year, or maybe in a different season or a different whatever. And he said, the people in your life, the children in your life, your parents in your life, they don't have time for you to be slow on things. Like, and he was talking about his parents and how he wished he could have provided for his parents, that they had now passed away, but that he had been successful while they were alive and had been able to put them in a more comfortable spot. So your kids, like if you were successful, what would that do for your son? Like what would it allot him and allow him to do now and 5 years from now? What would it do for your daughter? What would it do? And I think that helps shift our perspective to see the value in, like you said, Brenda, sacrificing a little bit of something because the value is so much more great. So for myself, I've built to the top of this company. It's our full-time income. I do work 10 to 20 hours a week. I now realize like, hey, I'm a working stay-at-home mom, but because of that, my husband is home full-time in our family. And so we wake up in the morning and have breakfast and coffee together, and we milk cows together at night, and we play board games. And it has given us so much more and is so worth me being in this office for 10 to 15 to however many hours that is during the week because of what is going on outside this office. So much value, right? So that's the thing I would encourage y'all to list out in that way. Okay, Sherry, I'm going to pass it over to you, and I would like a little bit of this, like this, if there's anything that you want to add onto this subject that's burning inside of you, because I know sometimes we listen to this and we're like, oh, this is what I would love to say. And if you could maybe also touch on the last piece that we wanted to talk about that coincides of that you can be present in your home and also profitable, also successful. So how have you seen that play out? And also tell us a little bit about your Flexus Business lesson.
Okay. Thanks for having me on here. I love this topic. So a few verses actually came to my mind when I heard these questions, these common questions in our mind. And it's a well-known proverb, 24:3 Proverbs. This is by wisdom a house is built, and understanding it is established, and by knowledge the rooms are filled with precious and pleasant things, or something like that. And when I look at those questions that you gave, the one of you have to choose between success or family, or you can't be present and profitable, are those wisdom? Because it's by wisdom that a house is built. And if you look at Proverbs as a whole, there is no place in Proverbs that has either of those concepts. But what we do find in Proverbs is things like the favor and what's the other? Like how your reputation. That's something over wealth, which we know that in business, you got to do it uprightly. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty baseline standard. It needs to be upright. It needs to be, those are pretty basic things. But that's not talking about these ideas that you can't be profitable and present and choosing between family and success. None of those have those things in there. Mm-hmm. I think there's these fears in our mind because of stories we've heard of people, doing network marketing and investing all that time and never getting anywhere, or so that fear of failure, which is what that one is, or this feeling of, yeah, my father, he worked all the time and he didn't have any time for me. Those sort of thoughts. That's what we really are afraid of. And these thoughts, they seem so righteous, because there is an element there, which is what good lies are made out of. Good lies are made out of most kind of almost like truths. Anyway, so here's some other Proverbs that I think of. There's Proverbs 11 that talks about the people curse him who holds back grain, but blessing is on the head of him who sells it. So if you have something and you withhold it, what do the people do? And compared to the person that has something and they sell it, there's blessing on him. So that one's pretty clear. Not a lot of explanation needed for that one. The other one that I think about lots is the thoughts of the diligent lead only to plentifulness. It's Proverbs 21:5. Mm-hmm. And to me, that one is just, how much time is wasted and stolen because of our lack of all of the thoughts of failure and all those things. You can't see failure in your future and be diligent at the same time. Those two do not go hand in hand. You have to see the plentifulness of what God can have, and that's when you be diligent. Now, diligence, I see diligence in the Proverbs a lot. There's a lot of Proverbs talking about diligence. And I guess, so those are some verses. There's so many verses, but I just think about if your identity isn't in the right place, it's very easy to get your sense of righteousness out of what you do, which could be making sourdough bread or laundry or whatever. And those things are good. Those are important to do, of course. But that's not where our identity, that's not where a strong identity comes from. That's not where life-giving identity comes from. So I had a purpose with that whole thought, but it just dashed out the window. So hopefully it will come back.
Sherry, I'm over here like holding back, shout. I'd be the person in the seats that'd be like, Amen, say it again. Like, thank you. Thank you for the biblical rooted wisdom that you bring to this conversation, and just so accurate. I think that we need that on a sticker or on a sticky note. You cannot see or look for failure in your future and be diligent in today.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see that in scripture? Where does that play out? We talked about Noah last week and working for how many 100+ years on a boat when he had never seen rain. You know, why? Because he had faith that if God had called him to it, he was going to provide whatever, he was going to be there, even if it was 100 years from now, right? Thank goodness we don't have to wait that long. But friends, he wasn't working out of doubt, or he couldn't have kept working, right? So just that thought, thank you for that. Thank you for that, of what diligent is and the identity. I think we should talk about that next week, Brenda, that identity issue. That thing on Instagram, and we see it on social media, that praise of the woman that's like, I'm at home, I choose not to do anything but bake sourdough and nurse babies. Like, and it's not from a humble way, it's from this prideful way. And just the same way on our side, you see women, I choose to use my time to bless my family by building a business, not doing one, right? The same way they can come, you can get that shame from both circles, because they're trying to find identity in, like, that is who I am and what I do, right? Brenda, go ahead. I see you over there preaching from, yeah.
I know, we're both just bursting, because I was talking with a friend last night, and she's like, you know what? I feel like God's really been telling me lately that I have just been too like guilt tripping myself, that I've just got to always put my family first, put my family first, put my family first. And it's not working in my business like I know I should and I could, because I am using that as an excuse. And I said, you know what? We talked a little bit more. And in the end, I said, looking back, I see this business as doing it was putting my family first. Like, I did it for my family. It was that whole heart that's in me to do excellence for my family, to show them the way of excellence and to show them the way of something better. I've always done that in every area. Why would it be different in this business? And we concluded that for me, and she said the same for her, which she's built an amazing business in Plexus too. We did this so much with our family. And I want to just drop this with you guys for my last thought. Keep in mind that when you involve your family in this Plexus business, it will prosper more. Let your husband know what you're doing, who you're talking to, who's being helped, the money that you're bringing in, because I know you will bring in money if you're sharing this. It's just how it works. Tell your children about Sally and her wonderful results, that she feels better. She's a better, happier mama. Involve them, let them know what's going on. And then they'll say, hey, how close are you to that next, getting that extra $100 bonus? And they want to be in this with you. And then when you reach it, rejoice together and make it a family effort. I promise you that's going to bless you.
No, I love it. I love it. And going back to that, like, self-discipline too, right? When you're why. So when I said 10 to 15 hours, somewhere in there, that can look like me getting up at 5 a.m. and working from 5 to 7. My house doesn't, I'm lucky, I'm blessed. My house does not wake up till like 7:45. So that's a 2 solid chunk of hours of time. But that means I'm not watching Netflix at night or doom scrolling and staying up till midnight, right? That's practicing self-discipline because I want to get that time in and find those places. So you can work in a way that's a blessing to your home, that is not a burden, that has a deep-rooted why, and is wisdom, right? So, woo! This is so hard to keep these calls short, because we could talk on this forever because we're passionate. And so I hope you guys know that we get to live out, the 4 of us, Alyssa, Sherry, Brenda, and I, we get to live out the blessing of having built this business and put in years. I've been here for 12 years now, put in the years of diligence and time, right? And so every single day we wake up in that blessing of the fruit of it. And so this call is to somehow encapsulate that and hopefully bring it to all of you so that a couple years from now or next year, because you never know what's around the corner, you wake up in that blessing and go pass that on to somebody else, right? So thank you so much, Alyssa, for sharing your story. And I'm so grateful that you guys found that hope and now are extending that to others. I just saw your Facebook and your whole house full of people and the farmer's market you're running and just like abundance. So thank you for that. And Brenda, Sherry with your mic drops, Brenda with your story and wisdom. Thank you so much, ladies. And we hope that you were inspired today. Take this and go do something with it. Go share with a friend. Go tell somebody, go say, this is what I heard. Go tell your husband, make a renewed commitment, write down the blessing in that, and then act on it. Act on it. So, all right, we're calling you up to that, ladies. We will see you next Wednesday. Maybe we'll check the calendar. And love you all. All right. Bye, friends. Thank you, Brenda.